Welcome to the ninth edition of L3's Continual Development course. Today's topic, we'll be discussing monitor review protocol. And I think today's discussion is a perfect follow-up to last week's discussion of flagrant and intentional fouls. The purpose of today's discussion is to serve as a refresher for those of you who currently work in leagues that has the monitor, and it also to introduce the monitors and procedures to those of you who may not have the opportunity to work with the monitor, but when that opportunity does arrive, you will be familiar and prepared, and you'll be ready to use this tool correctly and accurately. Now, today's meeting is going to be slightly different. We're going to cover monitor review protocols from beginning to end, from the pregame discussion in the locker room all the way through a replay situation or scenario on the floor. Garrick and Blanca will walk us through the pregame discussion in the locker room. Then Garrick's crew will walk us through an actual monitor review situation on the floor. We will follow that up with a crew walking us through, a volunteer crew walking us through a second monitor review scenario on the floor also. Now, as a reminder to everyone, as always, this is an open discussion. Feel free to ask any question that comes to mind, share your observations and insights, or post your questions in the chat section and we will get to it. The only thing that we ask is please mute your devices if you're not currently speaking or about to speak. With that, I thank you. And you know what, without any further ado, let's roll into it. Garrick and B, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes. All right, Garrick, you can go ahead.
Okay. So the table crew has come into the locker room. So just like anything, introductions. Hey guys, I'm Garrick. This is Mike right here, Brian McNutt, and we have an alternate for today's game as well. That's Jason Baker. Blanc, if I remember correctly, you're my shot clock?
That's right.
Okay. Have you guys had any issues with the shot clock here?
No, and we've actually already tested it and everything is working properly.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. And we're probably going to test it again once we go out just so that we can, see it ourselves. But your table, one of the best in the country, and just thank you for what you guys, do for us. We'll keep it simple here with the shot clock. You can always just be slow to reset, okay? And once you see possession, go ahead and reset it. If there's a question, just go ahead and hold on to that shot clock.
Okay.
Mike, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, yeah, if you're not sure, just put it on us, and we'll make sure that we're real clear for you, and we'll signal if we see anything off.
Great. Wayne, I know you're replay, so we're going to come to you last. Angel, I believe you're our official scorekeeper.
Yes, sir.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, sometimes I get a little dyslexic sometimes, so if I show you 31 and it was supposed to be 13, don't be afraid to say, hey, Garrick, what was that? Who was that again? You're part of our team. The whole table's part of our team, so we want to make sure that we put the foul, on the right person. If we have any technical fouls, hold our feet to the fire and let us know if it was we need to let you know if it was a Class A or a Class B, because one goes towards, team and personal, and one doesn't. So make sure that if we do have a technical, that we tell you what kind it is. Brian, did I miss anything with our scorekeeper?
No, Angel, my thing is if we as a crew go to a monitor and we're going to talk, we have a lot of things processing, going through our heads. Make sure we give you the information you need, and we're going to talk about that. Gary's going to talk more about the review later, but make sure we get the table all the information before we go to the coaches and everyone else.
Got it.
Great. And Al Batista's on our game clock. Hey, Al, have you had any problems with y'all's game clock here, stopping, not starting when it should be, or anything like that?
No, Garrick, but I just have a question for you.
Okay.
Basket scored at 102. Should I stop the clock at 59.9?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. If you see, Al, if you see the clock that, hasn't started running yet, just quickly get it started and then get our attention. Then we can, we can get to the monitor to see how much time actually ran off. If there's a long delay of the clock not running for whatever reason, if there's an immediate drive or immediate shot, don't sound the horn. But if you see that the offense is not doing anything, we need to go ahead and stop it and rectify that situation. Jason, did you have anything you want to add to that I may have missed or anything like that?
Al, do you have instant recall on the shot clock?
Yes, you do.
I have the shot clock, and yes, there is recall on the shot clock.
There is instant recall, and also Blanca, one more thing: if you're in a situation where you don't know if there should be a reset or not, say there's a possible change of possession in the far corner, and you can't really see, be looking for the official closest to you, because hopefully we'll be giving you some assistance as to a reset or everything's fine. We'll give you a thumbs up if all good, and if we need a reset, be looking for us to do that right there.
Okay, perfect. And another quick question. I know it's early in the season, and I was just wondering if you guys could review with me when it is that I'm supposed to reset the shot clock.
We're doing men's college?
Yes.
Okay. So the new rule is that if we're going to stay in the front court and the ball hits the rim and the offense retains possession, it goes back to 20. And then if we have a foul that's above 20 in the front, then it's going to stay there. If it's below, then it's going to go back to 20. Now, if we have the ball that hits the rim and it's a long rebound in the backcourt, it's going to go to 30.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're good. And then Wayne, you're our DV sport guy, or you're our.
And again, if you're not sure, I was gonna say again, if you're not sure, just pick 20, pick 30. We'll figure it out. It's only 10 seconds, but don't delay resetting for that. If you're not sure in the front court, go ahead and default to 20. In the back court, 30. And then if there's a discrepancy, we'll stop playing when it's appropriate and fix the discrepancy.
Okay, got it.
Good.
Thank
Wayne, you're our replay person, correct?
That is correct.
How many views do we have?
Well, today we have three angles. We have the midcourt angle right above midcourt, high.
Okay.
It encompasses the entire court, and we have both end zone angles, right to the right side of the backboard.
Great. And the one that's up high, we can zoom in on a play. Maybe if there's a 2 versus a 3 or whatever, we can catch that.
Yes. So we can zoom in, we can stop, we can shuttle, we can pause. In general, we can get to a specific point in the game if you know the exact time.
Okay. All right. That'd be great. One thing that I'll ask from you, if you see something, or if anybody on the table sees something like a 2 versus a 3, go ahead and write it down. Okay.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we get this, we get these plays right. Okay. So I know there's been some things in the past where people weren't quite sure if they should tell the referee or not, and they had definite knowledge. So don't hesitate. Worst case scenarios, we come look at it, and it was 1 versus, it was a 2 versus a 3 or vice versa. So y'all are part of us, and we want to get it right. Okay.
Got it.
But when we come out there, I'm going to come over, I'm going to check the clocks. I'm going to take a look at replay, just make sure that everything is up and running. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you out there. Any questions, Blanca, if you want to ask people that, I feel like some of the things that we talked about, even if you just got rid of the replay aspect of it, for those that's maybe in the high school ranks or people that don't have replay, I think this is still a discussion that you can have with the table. Even if the table crew doesn't come in, you can still have that discussion at the table. So if there's any questions, Blanca, I'll let you ask your crew, your people.
So that was geared towards the men's side. So if anybody has questions right now, we can go ahead and ask those. And if not, then I'll go ahead and I'm going to just review quickly just the differences on the women's side.
Okay, great. All right. So now we're going out to the floor now. Typically what we'll do is we'll ask to see if they have stopwatches. That's important in case the clock doesn't work or shot clock doesn't work. We'll at least have the stopwatches. Typically we'll go ahead and have them put the the game clock at 8 seconds and the shot clock at 5 seconds, have them run down just so that we can hear the difference in the sound of the horns. Some places their horns aren't very loud, or they're almost the same as the game horn. So we want to make sure that we can differentiate between both of them and make sure that the both are working. And then we'll go to replay. Wayne, I forgot to mention to you in the locker room, if you wouldn't mind controlling the shuttle, that'd be great. I don't feel too comfortable with it, and this is something that I'm sure that you're used to doing. So if that'd be fantastic. Okay.
Yes, we can do that.
All right, and now we've looked at it, and so we like what we see, and now we're playing, and now we're in the third quarter of this game, and we have to know our replay rules and everything. So go ahead.
All right. Now we're good. We're getting ready to roll into a play. Before we get too far, B, was there any clarifications or anything we needed to add differently on the women's side versus the men's side with our pregame discussion?
Yeah, so a lot of it is similar, but I'll just go ahead and review quickly just some of the differences or kind of like what we like to talk about on the women's side. And obviously earlier in the season, we want to be a little bit more thorough, because this is kind of new to everyone. We're all trying to get back in the hang of things. So when that whole table's in there, like Garrick said, make sure you introduce yourselves, right? Make sure you get to know them and you make them feel comfortable because like Garrick said, they're a part of our team. So I'll normally, tell the scorer just to make sure that that we have good eye contact, right? Because there's nothing worse than when we're going to go report a foul and then they're just like either already writing it down or not looking at us. So that's something that I like to say in the pregame. And I know we talk a lot about when it's a 15 foul, we want them to visually show us 2 fingers, right? When it's a 15 foul. And then when it's a disqualified player, we want them to verbally tell us what number it is. And then we want them to visually show us the 5. Just because I know some people get confused and then it can turn into a miscommunication. So we like to be clear when it comes to that type of stuff. And also, like, if we have any ejections, I'll tell the scorer just to make sure that they write down the time and the number of the player that was ejected. And at the end of the game, I'll just tell them to make sure that they give me a thumbs up, just to make sure we're all on the same page. For the timer, I want to ask them normally if we're going to have medias, right? Because some will, some won't. So if we have medias, we need to know how long the medias are going to be, right? And then I'll go into talking about disqualified players, right? Because for disqualified players, we get 15 seconds. Right, so we want to make sure that they give us a first horn at 15 seconds and then a second horn once that 15 seconds expires. And another great reminder, something Al brought up, is we have to make sure to tell them to stop the clock when we're under 59.9 in the 4th period after a made basket. And then for the shot clock, I'll just, again, because we have new rules, so I'll just go over that with them if they don't already know. So for us, when a defense commits a foul in the front court or an intentionally kicked or fisted ball, the shot clock's going to reset to 20. And like you guys said, if they're not sure, I'll just tell them don't reset it. When the game clock shows less time than the shot clock, I'll remind them to turn the shot clock off. Okay, and everything as far as DB sports stuff is pretty much the same. So you just want to make sure that you get to know them, get all the angles that you need. And I like to ask them if there's going to be audio, right? Because I think that's very important. And I also tell them, like, if we're going to go review a play, that if they can run it back 10 or 15 seconds before the play we're actually going to go and look at, just to verify that the game clock is correct. So those are just a few things. And if anybody else on the women's side wants to add anything that I may have missed, please feel free.
That's good. It's good, B. And likewise, the last thing we'll share with them as they're leaving the locker room is to remind them that, once again, we're all the same crew. We're all in the same crew. They're part of us. If they see anything that we need to be aware of, get our attention and let us know, no matter what it is. All right. Now, we're getting ready to roll into our first clip with Garrick and his crew. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
All right. So we're gonna, as we normally do, we'll play the clip. The first angle is gonna be live, as if the play is going on. What position are each of you in, by the way, on this play?
Let's see. I'll be lead. Mike Milione is slot, and then Brian is trail.
Okay, sounds good. So we all know what perspective we're watching this play from. All right, here we go.
All right, so we're going to go look at this. Mike has given the whirly bird. I've given the whirly bird. We're under 2 minutes. We can go to replay. We have a call on the floor, so that's most important. Got to have a call on the floor. So now we're going to go look at it. So now we're getting over to the table. Wayne, can you give us? Can you show us the looks that you have?
Yes. Here's
Give
the
us
first look.
First one you zoomed in. Okay.
Yes, zoomed in from the midcourt camera.
All right. And right now, Mike and I are at the table. Brian is making sure players are at their respected benches. Can we see that again,
So
please?
Garrett, we need a call before we go out.
Yeah, I have one.
Look.
We have one.
So what's our call on the floor?
It was white ball.
I didn't see it.
Sorry, white ball.
All right, you call white ball. Got it.
Okay.
It jumped through there. My bad.
Real quick, Wayne, can you back it up to the very beginning?
Yep.
Okay. So we have a situation where it's, a high impact call. Definitely going to review the call for who touched it last because it's a bang bang. And also you're probably in this situation going to check the clock and make sure that it's correct. And you put the clock exactly as to when it hit on the floor out of bounds. But I just want to remind everyone that when we have a monitor situation, sometimes we as officials, kind of like when we call technical fouls, it's like everything gets rushed. And when we have monitor situations, time needs to be of the essence and in and out and this, that, and the other. But as this crew immediately knows that we're getting ready to go take a review, if I had to guess, this is probably third OT. This is probably maybe the fifth review they've had in the last or under a minute in regulation and the overtime. So a lot of things have probably been reviewed. So we need to slow down. And if you'll run it real quick, Garrett or Wayne. So everybody stop right there. Stop. Everybody starts heading into each other.
Mm-hmm.
First thing we need to, Garrick's almost to the point where he's past the blue players. Our center is already walking toward the table. So we just have to keep in mind that we need, the first thing we need to do is keep all 10 players in our visual and get everybody to the bench before we do anything. I think this is probably a situation where everybody's just expecting us to go to replay immediately, and we are for sure, but we can't get ahead of ourselves in this type of situation. Slow down a little bit.
Great point, JB. Excellent point. Thank you. Do you have a lead look, Wayne?
Yes, I do. Coming up right after this.
Okay, great. Can we see that one more time?
Yep.
Mike, I'm going to get Brian in here to take a look at this as well. Brian, can you come in and take a look at it? And now, all three of us have now looked at it, and obviously there's nothing there to really overturn it, so we have to stay with the call on the floor, and white ball, spot throw in. Clocks were good. Now we're got 2.9 seconds left to finish this game. Mike, you want to add anything to it? Brian?
Well, so I just have a question for you. We gave it to White, right? Yeah, White
Yeah.
ball. And is White the home team, Arlington, or is White Texas State?
White is Texas. White's the visitor.
Okay, all right. So I'm just going back to Jason's point, right? We've got a high impact, high score, or high impact, high certainty. We're going to the monitor. Unfortunately, you know, there's nothing conclusive one way or the other. Obviously, we look at, you know, the blue player's reaction. He's pretty adamant that it's their ball, and he would be because they're down 2, right? But rule-wise, we can't do anything about that. So I'm just pointing that out because it basically gives the ball back to Texas State. They're up 2. They got 2.9 seconds, and it hurts UT Arlington. But at the same token, you know, when you watch the play live, it absolutely looks like it goes off before. When we slow it down, you know, we don't have an angle or a view that shows this is, we'd like to say, well, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, as much as we'd love to say, hey, we know we got it right, you know, there's no inconclusive evidence that allows us to change that call.
And just to give you more context, I mean, we looked at this and looked at this and looked at this, obviously, because we know, I mean, this is at the end of the season. This was on 28th of February, one of the last basketball games played, you know, before the virus and whatnot. So both these teams were fighting for position as well for the, you know, Sun Belt tournament. So we definitely were. We really didn't care how long it took, obviously, because we needed to get it right. Brian, is there anything you want to add to this or about replay?
Just a thought came into my head, and this is something that you can help me with, Jason. I mean, anyone's input. I'd like this. This is an out of bounds that has to be conclusive, and we want to make sure we get all the angles. Agree with that. But if the two of us go, there's nothing conclusive to help us change, is it always a must that we bring in the third on a play like this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want everyone to.
Wayne,
I don't want a supervisor, and there may be a supervisor on here. You know, why didn't you have Brian come look at it? You know, maybe he saw something, and you know, at least that's just my opinion.
Wayne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is Tony Stigliano.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Good. Can I interject something?
Sure.
If this is a crucial game, which y'all indicated, that's a tough play. I see two things, definitely. All the procedures you went through were correct. However, all three should look at it so that you didn't leave any doors closed. Even though you know that 2 out of the 3 said, we got the call right, or we're not sure, we go with what we have. I also know that the official on the baseline probably should have done what initially?
Stop the clock.
Yep. What else? Sell it better. Should have sold it better. That's what sometimes gets us in trouble, because coaches at this point, their mind is set that it's their ball. And you can't blame them because they've said that to themselves immediately, that's my ball. But if the official on the baseline stops the clock and really sells it, here's a chance where you overzealous and you sell it. Then if you go look at it, which is the correct thing to do, don't lose focus that you need to go look at it. And then you go through the mechanics where the 2 go to the table, 1 stays on the court, watches the players, and et cetera. And then you have the third one come over Don't tell them what you've seen yet. See what they see. And then remember the time limit. If it's indecisive, then you go with what the official had on the end line because you don't have evidence to other than that. And technically, he made the right call. Anyway, I just want to give you that feedback.
Good stuff. Thank you,
Good.
Tony.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. I have a question for the group. Why is it important for us to have a call on the floor before we go to the monitor?
Wayne, this is Eddie.
That's the rule. We,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
the short
say,
answer
Eddie?
is that's the rule, right? We're not allowed
Yes.
to go to the monitor until we've made a ruling on the floor.
Right.
Correct. But what is the why? What's the why behind that rule? What are we gonna share with us, Eddie?
So what I was going to say is the reason why it's so important to have a ruling on the floor is so we can know what we're going to be looking at. You know, what is it that we're going to go to the monitor for, and we're giving information to the coach as to why we're going to the monitor and reviewing the play.
Right.
Another
I'm
reason.
jump in on this, Wayne.
Yes.
The number one reason you have a ruling on the floor is because you may get to the monitor and not have an angle, or the equipment may not be working. And so you have to
There it
have
is.
something before you go. And if you
Correct.
don't think that'll happen, work a
It
season.
has happened.
It happens more often than not that you either don't have the angle, or the equipment's not working, or we've had the DB sport operator shut the program down 30 seconds to go in the game. I mean, you name it, it can happen. So you have to have a ruling on the floor.
Yeah, yep, there it is. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if we're going to the monitor and we're taking a look at it, what is it that we're looking for specifically? We have to have what before we can change the ruling on the floor?
Indisputable.
Indisputable evidence.
Yep. Indisputable
Yep,
video evidence.
inconclusive
It has to be clear, yes, clear, before we can overturn or change our ruling on the floor. And I agree with everyone. At this point in this game, it's an out of bounds, right? And here's the thing, this out of bounds is so close. Yes, all three of us need to take a look at the video and get all three opinions. And I agree with Garrett 100%. You take your time, you figure it out. You get as much information as you can. Why? Because this is a pivotal game. It's at a pivotal point in the game. So yes, we'll make sure we don't miss anything. We don't take anything for granted.
So
What else? What else?
There's been some
Okay,
talk. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking through the chat here, right, there's been some questions about the horns and why does it matter and so forth. So in the men's game, when you go and you look at a replay and the shot clock's involved, by rule, the precedent is first the horn, then the clock. And now 99.999% of the time, we can't hear the clock in the replay anyway. But
Right.
in the rule book, it states that is the precedence, as opposed to the game clock. It's zeros, lights, horn. But for shot clock, it specifically says horn, then zeros. And the reason for that is the way that our shot clocks work. Even with a zero showing, there could be time left on that clock, and the horn hasn't gone off. It's very rare, but it's not like the zero. So that's the way that the rule's written. But 99.999% of the time, we don't have access to it. But that's the real reason.
Right.
Mike,
Good point,
also,
Mike.
there's
Excellent
also
point.
some things in the text. I want people to make sure they get their questions answered and that we don't miss
Thank you.
anything. If there's no game horn, if horns do not work, what can we use? Can we use the shot clock horn?
You
We can
stopwatch, Garrett.
use the LED, Garrett.
Okay. So I know there's some questions going on. If the horns don't work, what do we do?
Mhm.
Okay, does anyone on the women's side have a reference for that? And do you have a reference for that on the men's side? I know there's some questions too as far as like where that is in the rule book. I don't have that on me right now, but if anyone does, that'd be great info.
And we're talking about why it's a technical foul if the shot clock horn does not work. Is that right? Is that what we're asking?
Game horn.
Game horn.
Yeah, if nothing works, it's administrative technical foul, right?
Certainly if the shot clock horn doesn't work, or if the LEDs for the game clock go off with the shot clock, that's a technical foul as well. I know I have reference somewhere that from John Levinson answering this a season or two ago because it happened in my league and I just needed the reference. But Rule 9 does reference a horn with regard to the shot clock. I can get to it in just a
Because
second.
Amy, on Rule 10, it doesn't specifically say anything about the horn. The only thing that it mentions, as far as if you go through the administrative tech, is the LED lights, them working or not working and being available. It doesn't talk about anything about the horns at all specifically. So
Right.
Page 94 in the women's rule book, page 94, 10.2. You can look at Rule 2 or Section 2, Section A.
Yeah, what I'm saying is if you want anything that has to do with the horn in reference to the shot clock, the only place I can find that is in Rule 9, that it says the shot clock period is defined by the horn as well as zeros. And so then we have to go to John Levinson to get the ruling on that. And I will find it and try to post it when I find it.
Well, and the reason I would say it's admin tech as well is because of the fact that it falls under the guidelines of equipment, court equipment.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, that's why I would say it's an administrative technical.
Yeah, it can't be a player substitute technical or a bench technical. It's certainly administrative technical foul.
Hey, Wayne, yes. Wayne,
The answer. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Amy, hey, I was just two things I wanted to bring up, and maybe you can talk more on these points. But first, just as a general guideline, I think it was Tony that said earlier, he made a great point about the officials when we gather after viewing the monitor, ask your partners what they have as opposed to telling them. And to build on that, if you're a lesser experienced official, or maybe not necessarily the R on paper, do not be afraid to step up and say what you have. And I think oftentimes we get caught up, or the crew chief will say what they have ahead of time, and now the easy thing to do is agree with the crew chief.
Sure.
But you're a third part of that crew, and you need to know that it's very important. We always say it, don't bring anything into the locker room, but sometimes it's easier said than done as a lesser experienced official. Then the converse part of that is, as the crew chief and as you develop into a crew chief, there are going to be opportunities when your supervisor expects you to take the leadership role, and the vote may be 2-1 against your decision. But as the crew chief, there are times where you need to go through and say, I will take full responsibility for this play, and the ruling on the floor is going to be this. And a great example of that is this out of bounds play, particularly at the end of a game, with the impact that it has to the game. If you're the crew chief on that and your partners are 2-1 and you see something that nobody sees, that may be an opportunity where you have to step up and say, I will take full responsibility for this play. And then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's conversation in postgame. I told the crew I would take full responsibility for this play, and then that's how you have to communicate it to your coordinator or supervisor when there's
Abby.
You cut out there.
Well, we might be having technical difficulties, which this happens in Zoom.
Lauren, just further building off what Rob just said, you know, as a lesser experienced official or somebody, you know, always, like you said, always give an opinion. Always give an opinion, and it's just because even if it's, you know, even if it's 2-1 against you, nobody's ever gonna say when you got it right. When the two people got it right, nobody's ever gonna say, "Oh, well, Lauren thought it was the other way." But that way, you have your response, you know, on the record in case the supervisor disagrees and they say, "Oh, I thought that should have been, you know, a disqualifying foul," and then the crew chief will more than likely be like, "Oh, you know, yeah, Lauren did say that she thought it was a disqualifying foul," and even though it was the unpopular opinion, at least your opinion is out there, and they can't say that you didn't, you know, you would never think twice about not giving your opinion.
Wayne, this is Tony again. If you go
Yes,
by
Tony.
men or women's mechanics, if you go through the proper procedures of what it tells you can do and can't do, looking at the monitor, to go over, you look at it, you keep your opinions to yourself, or you can just say, "What'd you have? What'd you have? Let's bring in the third one." Don't give them opinions. Third one comes over, looks at it, referee says, "What'd you have?" Then the referee makes a decision based on what the crew saw. Whatever that decision is what you go with, period. Now, when the game is over and now the coordinator calls, if you've gone through the proper procedures to make that call, you've done 80% of it.
Right.
It's when you get over there and you hesitate and you look at it again and you go back over and look at it, another one comes and looks at it. Now you know you've got issues, which, I mean, they can see that on video. So if you do exactly what the mechanics book says, you're in good shape.
Yep, I agree. 100%. What other observations do we have on this situation, this scenario that we're reviewing?
Just another thing, just kind of going off of what Tony was talking about, and I know we talked about this briefly last week. I just want to remind you guys, when we go to the monitor and the crew chief asks if you have an opinion, just say yes, then switch with your partner, right? Because we talked about those microphones being at the table. So we just want to make sure that we don't give our decision until all three officials come together to conference.
And that's on the court away from the table.
Correct.
Correct. That is correct.
Let me ask you another question. How does the table crew, are they able to help you? By rule, can they help you?
Absolutely. Yes. Tony, if I may, even with this game, we had the table crew were like, "Hey, Garrick, you might want to go look at this monitor over here, because that monitor, the other monitor was so high def." Then it was just like, gosh, we could have come to this one first and it probably wouldn't have taken as long as it did, but we had to use what they had first. But then the table crew was like, "Hey, you might want to come look at this one."
Yeah, and remember, now the table crew is part of your crew. They can't make decisions and they can't change anything, but they could advise.
Yep.
And that's, like you said prior to your pregame, when you go over, and I'm not trying to get away from the subject, but I made a comment earlier. When you go to the table initially prior to the game, you get all three to talk with you. Why? You want them focused on the game, because if you ever watch them when they get to the game, whether it's JUCO, NAI, Division II, III, Division I, they talk to each other, they visit with everybody. It's a holiday type atmosphere. So when you go, you got to get all three of them together. And when you ask questions to start, you give them questions that they can answer, not try to stump them. And make sure that when you ask them questions, it's in basic steps where you want to lead them to. And the last part of that is, by the way, we will be coming to the monitor. The referee say, "I may ask you questions."
Nice. Good stuff.
Hey, Gary, I have a question real quick. So we're talking about just the three officials on the floor. However, when we first started this clip, you had mentioned that JB was actually going to be your alternate at the table. And that in that case, what would be the procedure? Is it any different, or how would that?
Your alternate can help out as well.
Okay, so is that a different process though?
As far as no, because sometimes when we're alternates on games, we'll even have a monitor in front of us so that we can be like, I can help them. I can also direct them what time they need to go to, what look they should look at, things like that. Now, obviously in the SEC, we have the collaborative replay. So,
Correct.
so that's taken care of. But if for an alternate, just like I was an alternate on Jason's game one time and I had the monitor in front of me, if there was something I need to look at, I can be looking at it as well. Then I'd be like, hey, Jason, you need to go here.
I think what he's asking as far as like a different processes procedurally how you come to the correct call, and the answer really is no. An alternate official is someone who is obviously sitting at the table. Their mind is very clear, and hopefully their emotions are very calm, and they're being able to see this whatever we're reviewing in a very focused manner, and we may be able to pick up something that maybe the referee or some of the crew doesn't see. But at the end of the day, as far as making a call on the floor, that is entirely up to the three people that are out there, starting with.
Correct. However, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just said thanks, Jason.
I would say to you that your alternate can say, when you, let's say 2 went over to look at the monitor, and you saw, and it's okay for the alternate to say, did you look at the specific part where the play was this, this, and this, period.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. So what they're really doing is pinpointing it even closer for you. So when you do look at it, you take that big picture and break it down to a smaller picture to look at, which saves a lot of time. They can do that, but they cannot make any decisions or be of any vote. All they can do is give you advice and information if you ask them.
That's a great point, Tony, and kind of piggybacking what everybody said so far. Like, we're going to the monitor initially on this play to see who it went out of bounds off of. But there are other reviewable matters that, how much time should be on the clock. Like Block said, did the shot clock start on time? All the other things that are reviewable, sometimes the alternate is thinking of those things when the calling official on the floor is not. And that's just because of the environment that we're in.
Right. That's good. That's good stuff. All right. Do we have any other observations before we move to the next scenario?
So real quickly, Wayne.
Yes.
Just for everybody, where are we going to put our game clock at? When you blew the whistle or when the ball went out of bounds?
Excellent question.
When the ball touched the floor.
Right.
There you go.
So that's another thing that you got to put in your pregame, because that's missed a lot.
Garrick, on something like that too, do you look at the DV Sport? Do you look at the timestamp in the game in the pregame as well?
I don't look at the timestamp. I try to make sure that, and this is, you brought up a great point, because even in the pregame, when we want to look at last second shots, I'm going to come back to your question. We want to make sure that we at least have the clock above the backboard and the shot clock in that look, so we can see that. So the same thing here. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at a superimposed time on the on replay. Does that make sense? I want to try to find a camera angle. The look that has the camera on the backboard.
Yep. Thanks.
Yep.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the group's feeling on working with inexperienced officials at the monitor? Like, if you're just going to go look for a 2 versus 3, would you take the person with the least amount of experience to get them practice? Or if you are going to a monitor and that person wants to take a look and you don't think it's necessary for them, but they want to just go, what is the group's feeling on allowing that to happen? Do you use the monitor for practice during games, or is that not an appropriate area to get someone experience?
I think it depends on the timing, right? So you mentioned 2 versus 3. Well, we're going to go check that most of the time during a media timeout when we have a lot of time. So I think that's a perfect opportunity to take somebody who's lesser experienced over. But if we're going to look, we don't want to hold the game up, especially if, we were waiting on impending free throws or something like that. We don't want to freeze the shooter. So I think it depends on the time and how much time we have to go to the monitor. And when we have that time, absolutely. But I think there are certain times when that would be detrimental to the game. And in that case, we want to try to avoid that.
I would say, let me share this with you. That's why we have a mechanics book. Whether they're inexperienced, great experience, middle experience, practice the proper mechanics. Practice the proper mechanic procedures when looking, the proper program at the table, go through it properly. Don't recognize them as a new person. I think that your intentions are good, but in the long run, you'll disrupt what is correct. Remember the concept of spaced repetition. It takes 21 days to change a habit. Don't throw different habits while they're getting there. It'll confuse them.
Great point, Tony. And that's why, we go by the protocol. Anytime we have a monitor situation, 2 people are going to go to the monitor. It's going to be the crew chief. And then if the crew chief is the one involved in the call, then the U1 is going to assist them. And if the U1 is the one that has the call, it's going to be the U1 and the crew chief at the monitor and the U2 observing the players and the benches. If it's the U2, the least experienced person on the floor that's involved with the call, they're coming to the monitor first with the crew chief, and the U1 is outside observing. So to your point, we don't look at it necessarily as experience level as to who, what, and when goes to the monitor. We have a protocol for that. But also to Mike's point, when you have 3 very experienced officials on a game, and you have a quick review, a 2 versus 3, or maybe just a small timing error, and the crew chief is comfortable with the partners that he's with, and perhaps it's the closest person in proximity that can literally just turn around, take a quick look at the replay, and fix the situation. When those kinds of variables are in place, it's okay just to get in and get out quickly. But when there's, times where we need 4 eyes on it, then you have to follow the protocol.
Yeah, and Jason, just real quick to add to that, I think it was a great question. And how about if you recognize that somebody on your crew is lesser experienced or maybe would want some experience at the monitor, making that part of the time when you're out there on the floor during pregame, because the crew chief's going to go over there and check the monitor anyway. So bring that official over with you. Allow them to use the toggle, show them the different angles and views and how to get to each view. Most of those are operable during our pregame warm-ups.
Good, excellent. All right, we're going to roll into our second clip, our second scenario, and we have a volunteer crew who's going to come in and manage this second situation. The crew is Angel, Simbri, and Drew. Are all 3 of you ready?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Like with the first clip, Angel's the crew chief. Have we decided what position each one of us are on the floor?
Angel?
Yeah, I'll be at lead. Simbri, you be at trail. Drew, how do I be at center? Okay, sounds good.
That'll work. So those are the perspectives we're working with. We'll play it through. We'll Actually, we don't have a decision on the floor, and then you guys will walk us through exactly how you would handle this. Okay, here we go. Okay, obviously there was not a call on the floor, correct?
Correct. We have a unobserved foul here. So
Wayne, would you run it through one more time real quick, please? Because I kind of jumped.
Wayne, can you make it where it's on my screen? It's not big enough right now. Does that make sense?
Make where it's on your screen?
Yeah, like right now I see like 9 people.
You have to pin the video.
Hold on. How do I have to what?
So find the video, and then in the top right corner of it, there's 3 dots. Click on it and hit video.
There you go.
Okay. Wait, no, don't got it.
Try next door there. Yes,
Are you on an iPad?
Yep.
Then your left of the screen, it says switch to, you can either switch to gallery view or switch to active speaker.
Active speaker.
Yeah, switch to active speaker.
There we
view.
go. There we go. My bad.
There we go. Good, good. So let's play it again. We'll play it again. We ready?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a player on the floor holding her face. How would we handle this as a crew?
Okay, so I'm not sure how the end of this play ends, but what we would like to have happened is once the ball settles, whether it's a made basket or the defense gets rebound or the offense pulls it back out, we'll kill it. Either one of the 3 of us can kill it. Probably the lead will probably get a whistle, kill it, and we'll secure the court by sending the players to their benches. At this point, the 3 of us will get together and we'll talk about, hey, we have a potential foul here that's going to be either intentional or disqualifying, and we can go look for review on this play. So at that moment, we'll kind of discuss together, and I'll say, hey, Drew, did you have a look on this play?
No, I did not.
Okay, and Simbri, did you have a look at this play coming down, how White gets on the ground?
No, I have no clue.
No clue. Okay, great. Well, I feel like something happened here, so we're going to go over there and look at it. Drew and I will go over there real quick. Simbri, you stay at midcourt, and we'll go. So if we can go to the monitor and get we'll see that first angle again, please, Wayne.
Yep.
I'm sure the coaches will be curious what we're going to look at, so we'll make sure and inform them that we're going to look for a potential unobserved intentional or
Yeah.
disqualifying.
All right. Do you have any other angles on this play, Wayne?
Yes, we do. We have an angle from the end zone. This is from midcourt. And then there's an angle from the opposite end line.
Okay, Drew, do you need to see any of these angles again?
One more time.
Which one do you want?
Can you go from the what am I trying to say right now? Not the sideline, but can you go from the inline?
Opposite inline?
Yes, sorry. Okay.
Good.
I have an opinion.
Okay. Hey, Simbri, let's switch out with Simbri. All right. Simbri, let them know when you're ready to roll it.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, Simmer, here we go. First look.
Okay, I have an opinion.
Great. All right, thanks, Wayne. And then we're going to step away from the table and discuss what we have. Drew, what do you have on this play?
Angel, I have clear evidence that maroon 25 clearly uses her elbow and hits white 33 in the face. So I think it's unnecessary.
Okay, so you're going intentional foul or disqualifying?
Intentional.
Okay. Simri, what do you have on the play?
I have a disqualifying foul on this play due to the violent and severe nature of her seeking her out and purposely contacting her with the elbow to the face.
Yeah, I agree, Simri. So for this, we'll go with disqualifying foul. Anyone from the white team can shoot 2, and the point of interruption will be white ball division line for a throw-in. And all the clocks are good. So next what we're going to do is Simri, you and I will bring the 2 coaches together and we'll talk and describe or tell them, this call isn't up for discussion. We have a disqualifying foul on maroon 25. Anyone from team white will shoot 2 and white will get the ball at the division line. At that point, we'll leave the coaches and start administering. Ready, go. And we're done.
Hey, so before that, Angel, since I'm the U2, I'm going to talk to the visiting team's coach first before we go to the monitor, and then the U1's going to talk to the home team.
Yeah,
Home
correct.
team's coach.
Yeah, we missed that on the secure the
Yeah.
talk about what we have, and then make sure we tell the coaches that we're going over the review for a potential unobserved. Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Who's going to communicate that with the table?
Referee.
Yeah, the referees.
The crew chief.
Yeah, as the U1, U2 are talking to the coaches, the crew chief can get over to the table and let them know that we're going to review the previous play for a potential unobserved and look at the severity of the contact.
And then after the ruling, either the U1 or U2 can inform the broadcast talent.
So this is Tony. So you're ejecting her because she intentionally used her forearm?
We're ejecting her because in the first clip, I'm not sure if you could see it clear, but red 25, right now you can see her. She's looking directly at white 33 and seeking her out to make that contact. It's not a basketball play. It's severe. There's a high potential for injury with the contact to the face. To me, I don't want any more of this in the game. And if we permit, we promote.
The only question I have, it makes sense. The only question I have is when she comes down, no question, she sees her. It looks like she's trying to get her elbow up and around her, even though she made contact.
Doesn't matter.
So you're saying because since she's clearly seeking her out,
that's
you can
what,
tell.
Yeah.
I get that.
She doesn't have her eyes on the ball. She puts her arm up at the end, I feel like, to potentially make it look like she's calling for the ball, but she wants to get that elbow to her face. And I feel like the eye contact with that player right there tells us that.
Right. Yeah, I get that now.
The coach is going to say to the coordinator, they call it a disqualifying foul. The girl was trying to get her arm out of the way. The 33 was still moving, so there was some contact there. I thought the definition of a disqualifying foul is it has to be severe. I can see an intentional. That's the reason I'm questioning it, because that's why it's all judgment, and that's why the monitor is important. But that's why I'm asking that question, because if I was a coach, that's what I'd ask the coordinator.
That's fair.
I have a little bit of insight on this clip. The crew actually did not have this look during the game.
Yeah,
The
I'm
look
sure
that
they
we
did.
have. Is anybody on this call that was on the game? So they did not have that look. They had the other looks where you cannot tell that she's making eye contact with the player. And so they did end up going intentional foul.
I'm going to challenge that assumption now, and not to be rude here.
Mhm.
I would believe I wouldn't have my eye on the ball either, since I've seen the girl in front of me, so I don't want to run over her. I'm the coach saying that. So when it says, well, the official told me as a coordinator that she didn't have her eye on the ball, I'm not so sure that's terminology I would use.
I would stick to the terminology of she seeks her out to create that contact with the elbow to the face.
I can buy that, but again, when you look at that play closer, it doesn't look like a disqualifying foul from that what I just saw. I can see maybe an intentional, so you got to be careful how you word it. That's a good play, by the way.
Does
Yes, it
anyone
is.
else have any other input about this play? Any thoughts?
Hello, hey everybody, it's Latrice. So I had a question. Had there been any insight on these two teams before? Any information of any turds in the game or something that they needed to look for before this game started?
No. But that's a good question though, because that'd be good to know. But no, as far as I know, that's no.
Okay, thank you.
I think
Just throw out.
Angel.
Oh, sorry, Al.
I think the other thing too is, I understand the call. The thing that looking at this play is fundamentals. When you go from trail to lead, find your last defender, the defender that can hurt you the most. It seems like no one's watching this. The center, where are they looking at on the play? When they're coming up quarter, are they finding players or what? And I think if you really perfect your fundamentals, you can stay out of these scenarios day in and day out. And they're going to happen. And I mean, it's excellent, what you're doing. But that's the thing that bothers me on this play is fundamentals. I mean, really look at the lead. Are they watching this, or are they running blind? I don't know. And look at your center. What are they watching?
Yeah, one thing I like to just do a checklist as I'm running down from trail to new lead. I like to go through and make sure I get to my hot spots. And a big hot spot in transition are these elbows. And we're going to have either a meet and greet right here at the elbows. And so I like to just check through everything before I move on to the next. In this play, it looks like lead is potentially looking up over her shoulder trying to find where the ball is. And this play just surprises her. So if we can stay fundamentally sound and get through our checklist as we go, get to this corner and make sure we don't have a meet and greet or any other activity before we move on, then we're going to be better off in a game.
Who has the best look at that play?
Lead.
Should have.
The one that's going to have the best option.
I would say 90% of the time, the lead's going to have a tough time seeing that play, especially if they don't move out. Even then, when they move out, that's a major angle, which will cut it off. Wouldn't you believe that the center may have a shot at it?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tony, but I think if the lead finds the last defender, they can pick this play up.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. Al, I don't disagree with that. Your point's well taken. But my point making is, even they find the last defender, notice that the defender's back was to him. So let's take a look and see where the lead was, and I bet you they're not going to be able to see the whole play.
But it's the last defender or the defender that can hurt them the most.
Yeah, because I think in this case, it's okay for the center to get it too.
Oh
Because-
yeah, definitely, definitely. Either or. That's what I'm saying. Fundamentals. Where are we looking? The second question, Angel, to this. Let's say you called it, and this is for everybody on the call. So let's say you called an intentional. Okay, let's just say we have an intentional, right? And that person also has a technical on them. What happens now?
They're disqualified.
Very good. Now let's look at the men's game. In the men's game, what would this be?
F2 ejection.
Yeah, I have an F2. I have a flagrant 2.
Okay, I understand that, but is it a personal or is it let's say you have an F2, okay? Is it a personal or a technical?
Personal because the ball's live.
Right.
Thank you. Who's shooting?
The player who got elbowed.
Okay, let's say they can't shoot. Who shoots?
Any team member.
Very good. So that's a little drill that you want to do. Pro basketball, what do you have? What
You got F1 now on pro basketball.
Let's discuss that.
Huh?
Yeah.
For our G League officials on the call, what would you have?
Sorry, Al, they've asked us not to discuss it.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Pro rules right now.
Yeah. Sorry.
So you can tell us.
Well, you're in pro basketball, you're going to have a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2 after video review, and all flagrant fouls in pro basketball are personal fouls. So it'd be that player would shoot. If it's a flagrant 1, that player would shoot 2 and the ball at the free throw line extended. If they were injured on a flagrant 1, then their head coach would choose one of the 4, and that player can't come back in unless for concussion protocol. If it's a flagrant 2, then that player can't shoot, then the head coach can choose anybody, and that player can come back in. So it's just a good review for everybody.
That's good. I had a comment. I thought y'all did really well overall as far as the mock review. The only thing that I would say, Drew, is whenever Angel asks you the question of what you have, is to just be direct and say you either have a disqualifying or intentional, because she had to ask you what you had in the end. So just say what you have in the beginning and then elaborate if she asks you why you have that.
Okay.
And I think as a crew chief too, if she doesn't elaborate, I think or Angel should have been like, okay, well, why? Right? Because we need to know the why as to like why it is that we're making the decision that we are. So I think understanding that would be very beneficial as well. So that's a good point, Jenna.
So you're saying I need to say I have an intentional foul, but I feel like I should also tell you exactly what I saw on the monitor, so we're all on the same page.
The reason, so whenever she asks you, Angel says, what do you have? Just say you have an intentional foul because she was elbowed in the face.
Okay.
And it's unnecessary contact. Just keep it short and simple.
All right.
Good. What else? What else do we have, people? What other observations do we have on this scenario? I think both crews did a really good job. Great job. Thank you all for volunteering.
Very excellent job.
The last thing that I would say is when we're having our conversations as a crew, we've made a decision on the play. We know what we're going to explain to the coaches, the table, the talent. Always ask the question before we break, what else? What else? Make sure we don't overlook anything, whether it's timing, resumption of play. Ask yourself what else, so that we don't rush or run the risk of overlooking something, a factor that then we have to come back and fix again. And then we go ahead and finish our procedure. Good job. Did we overlook anything today in our monitor review?
Real quickly.
Anything that we did not discuss.
Yes, go ahead, Al.
You could take these two plays, you can look at it and then go out on a court and practice it, have someone there with a stopwatch and see if you can do it, let's say in a minute and 30 and figure it out and practice it. That's the second piece of it. Today, I know we don't have that, but if you do that, you'll get better and better and better at it. Because the only time we practice monitor scenarios is in games. So now we have this piece, what we're doing today, take these plays and go on a court and just practice it. We used to do this at JB's crew chief camp.
Yeah, and also you have, that's really good, Al. I was just going to add to that and just say, if you can get two of your friends that are referees and just work on role playing,
yep.
It makes such a big difference. And I know how uncomfortable it can be. Trust me, I'm still kind of uncomfortable with it. But again, it's just like the more that you practice it, the more confident you're going to be when you actually get out on the floor. All right. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for joining the call today. For those of you that are not part of the GroupMe group that get the weekly link, just feel free to either email me or Wayne, and we'll go ahead and add you to the group so you can make sure that you're getting the weekly link. Okay.
Wayne, this is Tony. Thank you for letting me observe today. Thought it was very good.
Oh, you're welcome, Tony. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
You're never too old to learn.
I know that's right. Hey, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you for giving up your time, you're giving us your energy, sharing your information and insight with all of us. Thank you very much. As usual, go through your week. Be thankful for what you have. Stay in touch with your families, and let's stay together as a group. Let's continue to grow and help each other as a group. Is there anyone else with any other comments before we leave? Hey, all of you, seriously, thank you for volunteering. This was great. This was outstanding. And we will see everyone next Wednesday at 2:00. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.
Wayne.